So a lot of people are wondering how they can increase their performance in FL Studio. I'm using FL Studio 8, so I'm pretty sure you can have the same options available to you whether you're using 7 or possibly 6, but I recommend using FL Studio 8. So let's go into these tips. If you're wondering how you can increase your performance, first thing I kind of recommend is going into Tools and then Macros and then clicking on Switch Smart Disable for all plugins. What this basically does is it will spare more of your CPU because it won't be loading active plugins continuously. It won't be spending your CPU for plugins that aren't being played within the song. So what does that mean? That means that if you're playing this part of the song, for example this region, beat 1 to 6, and this part isn't being played at all, like 10 and on, it won't spend your CPU loading this ahead of time until it actually comes up to this part of the song. And so that's kind of useful. The only drawback I would say is that if you were playing the song and you come into it, it might not load the plugin immediately. It might have some delay, whether or not it just depends on your CPU, but there might be some delay and some people might not like that. But it is recommended. It's good, and it spares a lot of your CPU if you've got a lot of crazy things going on, a lot of bass lines, a lot of loops and whatsoever. Another thing I'd recommend is going into step sequencer, and you can just click on any sort of sample you want, and there's an option right here that says keep on disk. Now depending on how much RAM you have, I have 2 gigs on my system right now, so if you have a lot of memory, by default you wouldn't want to keep on disk, because as it plays the song in the playlist, it will play faster and it will play more efficiently if it's not on your disk and if it's on your memory. So you want that option to be off. It's preferred to be off. Also, let's go into audio settings. Now, if you can use ASIO for all as your input-output, that is recommended. It's much better than primary sound driver or your Sound Blaster, Audigy, or whatever your direct sound device is. ASIO for all is really good. I recommend it, but it might not be available to you. If it is available to you, you want to go into the settings and kind of just play around with the buffer size a bit. Now, the larger your buffer size, the smoother the playback will be, but the slower the response will be. So, for example, if you connect a MIDI keyboard to control FL Studio and you have a really high buffer size, your response will be really slow compared to something very small, such as 88 samples or 128. But if you want a really low buffer size, then you need something really powerful to kind of support that buffer size, because you have a really fast response. So if you have a MIDI keyboard or you're doing recording, you'd kind of want a lower buffer size, but if you got a really crazy song going on, just stick with the highest available. Now if we look over here, we also have another option, priority. You want your priority to be the highest. You can turn off safe overloads. I heard that from some other people, and I think I was in help saying that safe overloads when off kind of just helps with the CPU a bit. You can also put interpolation on linear, so that's just linear quality, but it is the fastest quality. And now here we go, sample rate. You want to keep it on 44/100. I wouldn't recommend 22,000, that's just bad, but 44/100 is alright. If you're some crazy audio freak, you could go 192, but 44/100, it's just default. It's fine. I guess that's basically it. So let's go over them. You can switch Smart Disable for all plugins, which is in the Tools menu. You can turn off Keep on Disk by clicking on the samples, and you also have some bonus options up here where you can adjust interpolation, sample rate, your buffer size, buffer length, your priority. And if you just had primary sound driver and not ASIO for all, it's basically the same thing, except you might have a larger buffer length or maybe a smaller, where you can just adjust it a bit more and a bit more options. If you only had primary sound driver, I would recommend using hardware buffer. It could or it might not improve performance. You could kind of play around with these options. So that's it for now. These are my tips to help improve your performance within FL Studio. Feel free to leave a comment or rate my video. Thanks for watching.